my name is Karen Fitzgerald, and I'm the Jewish lay leader here at Joint Base Lewis McChord. And we can be found at the Main Post Chapel Annex and on Facebook, JBLM Jewish Community. Links are also available on First Corps Chapel pages. Now, the following discussion in Devar Torah is for Rosh Hashanah. It's hard to believe that literally Rosh Hashanah is just around the corner. Now, Rosh Hashanah literally means the head of the year and is the Jewish New Year. It is a time of inner renewal and divine atonement. This year, Rosh Hashanah begins at sundown on Friday, September 18th, and it ends in the evening on Sunday, September 20th. As with most Jewish holidays, food is a large part of the celebration. It is customary to have big feasts on both nights, and there are thus a plethora of customary dishes that include things like honey cake, brisket, tzimmus, always round challahs, apples and honey, etc., etc. And please refer to your favorite Jewish website for more information, delicious recipes, and other traditions that go along with Rosh Hashanah. And now I'd like to just discuss the Torah portions and Haftorahs for Rosh Hashanah. So the Torah portion for the first day of Rosh Hashanah is Genesis 21, which tells of the birth of Isaac to Abraham and Sarah. Now that they have a child of their own, they ought to be quite happy, but their happiness is disturbed. Ishmael, who had been born to Hagar, is a wild fellow, and Sarah is troubled by Ishmael's bad influence on the young Isaac. Sarah urges Abraham to send Hagar and Ishmael away. Abraham is reluctant to follow Sarah's suggestion, for he loves his son Ishmael too. But God assures Abraham that it will be better for all if Hagar and Ishmael were to move away. Nor should Abraham worry about Hagar and Ishmael. They would be cared for, and Ishmael's descendants would be a great people in the future. This Torah reading is one of the many examples of the Bible of God, remembering. He remembers and fulfills the promise of a child to Abraham and Sarah. One of the most important themes of Rosh Hashanah is that of Zichronot, God remembering. Now the Haftorah for the first day Rosh Hashanah is 1 Samuel 1, 2-10. And tells of the birth of a child to Hannah and Elkanah. Like Abraham and Sarah, this couple had been childless for a long time. Hannah prays with all her heart to God and promises that if she and her husband should yet be blessed with a son, he would be delivered from birth to God's service. At last, Hannah's prayers is fulfilled and Samuel is born. Hannah carries out her promise and Samuel is dedicated to God. He eventually becomes a prophet and judge among the people. As in the Torah reading, where God remembers Sarah and blesses her with a child, so too in the Haftorah is Sarah remembered. Now the Torah reading for the second day of Rosh Hashanah is Genesis 22, and tells of the very difficult test to which Abram was put by God. Abraham is asked to offer his beloved son Isaac as a sacrifice. Abraham is prepared to carry out this most difficult challenge of his life, but at the last moment, as Isaac lies bound on the altar at the top of Mount Moriah, God makes it known to Abraham that he does not want human sacrifices, and Isaac lives. Here, then, at the beginning of Judaism, it is made clear that our faith is to be different from the ancient religions of which human sacrifice were a natural part. And now the Haftorah for the second day of Rosh Hashanah is from Jeremiah 31, 2-20. The prophet Jeremiah, who lived to see the destruction of the first temple and the exile of his peoples, brings to them a message of hope for the future. Jeremiah urges that the exiles repent of their wrongdoings and return to a full faith in God. God, in turn, will restore them to their land, and they shall live in peace once more. One of the important themes of Rosh Hashanah is teshuvah, repenting of wrong and returning to right. This Haftorah emphasizes this theme. And now I'd like to wish you all a L'Shana Tova, and Caleb now will go ahead and give us some additional insight into Rosh Hashanah. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Caleb. I'm a Jewish lay member at the JBLM community here on base, and I'm just going to talk a little bit more in addition to Rosh Hashanah, which of course means New Year. It's the culmination of all the Rosh Chodeshes, of the new moons. And if we look up into the sky, of course, during the new moon, we're never going to see a new moon. We're going to see a renewed moon. And it goes from darkness, where the naked eye really can't see it, to the following day where just that little sliver is shown, and that's the new moon celebration. And if we take this idea into the book of Jeremiah, we also learn that when Jeremiah starts speaking of this new covenant, it's not so much a new covenant, it's a renewed covenant. It's something that takes from the old, revamps it, and brings it into this new world, and like the new moon would do. So when we look at Rosh Hashanah, when we're celebrating this new year, if you say to somebody 2020, immediately in our minds, we're like, I can't wait for this year to be done. 2021's got to be a better year. And we're losing, when we have this attitude, when we post on Facebook what could go wrong more with 2020, we're losing a renewal process that can take place. As if somehow COVID knows it's going to be 2021, I have an expiration date on December 31st. Or the person who I'm nominating, if they don't get elected, as if the world is going to end. And we have this idea very often in the back of our mind, and it shoots out subliminally, whether we know it or not, that this new idea also means it's the best idea, it's the most predominant idea. We live today in the apex of the world, right? I remember as a kid when I was like 20 years old or so, the baby boomer generation stating that they were the greatest generation to ever live. I said, man, that's unbelievable. I mean, the people who invented the wheel might argue, the great travelers of the world may argue, the people who went to, foreign countries and experienced all these other things may argue, but for some reason, the baby boomers is the greatest generation. Until it hit me, I wonder who nominated them. Oh, it's probably the baby boomers, right? And so here's my generation today. Now we're 40s, we're 50s, we're very experienced. We're saying we are the greatest generation. We're the ones who rode our bikes outside, played outside, and had to be home before dark. No internet, to now we're the ones who also know how to do Twitter and Facebook and all this. And so we're the greatest generation. And there's no doubt in my mind, my children, as they get older, they're going to say they're the greatest generation, because in our minds, we can't think 5,000 years ago as we prepare for Rosh Hashanah, year 5,781. We can only think of today. So today is the newest, it's the best, and it's the most important time we've ever lived. This is our mindset. And so what we should be doing is, I'm going to take it all the way back to Bereshit 1 and 2, the very first two chapters of the Bible. And if we can kind of gather ourselves, we would come to know 2020, it's not really been the worst year we've ever had in all of existence. Maybe not the best, but at the same time, it's not the pinnacle. There's every generation of Jewish religion, we have always been saying and have said before, this is the year, Messiah's coming this year, this is the year, it's going to happen. And I think it's so important that we sometimes take that step back, and rather than thinking of things as always fresh and such and new, we think of it as renewed. We need to renew our understanding on who the Messiah is. So then maybe we'll get a better understanding why he has not come yet, because here we are for the last 4,000 or 4,000 years waiting for him. Maybe we have obviously a misunderstanding of who he is. And as we get a better understanding, we'll be able to get a little bit better pinpoint of when he is coming. Maybe we'll get a little bit better understanding of what this new year, 2021, is coming with. We'll get a better understanding of where we're going as a people if we learn to stop thinking that today's moment and everything that's happening with it is all roads leading, and this is the most important moment we've ever had. If we just take a step back and look at it, equal to 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 20 presidents from now, if I was to ask you who's the 23rd president, most of us won't know. And as I just said it, I don't know. But when it became time to vote for that 23rd president, it was the pinnacle moment for those people. Those people thought they would live and die by who was ever elected, and we have that same feeling today. It will be fine if we take a renewed approach, looking to the past. So in the book of Genesis, there's 3 types of control that God tells Adam, man, that I want you to have. In the first one, he says it in the same sentence when he's talking about the whole world. I want you to subdue and master the world. Those are 2 types of control. He uses separate words. I want you to subdue and master. And those 2 types of control, along with a third in which he speaks to Adam and he says, sin is creeping at your door. I'm sorry, he's speaking to Adam's son. And he says, sin is creeping at your door, If you don't learn to master it, you're going to have a problem, essentially. So we have these three very distinct, different types of control. The first one, subdue, in Hebrew, it speaks of somebody essentially in chains. This is the idea it's giving. You need to learn how to control to the point of almost breaking this thing's will. The second type of control is authoritative. It's you must learn to master this world that we live in. So you need to know when it's time to control by chains, absolute authority, absolute control, when you need to learn to control with your authority of your power when you speak. And then the third one, of course, you're never going to master the sin creeping at your door. So what type of mastery, what type of control are we supposed to have? The word there in Hebrew is mashal, which is also the exact same word for Proverbs. You need to speak intelligently and have an intelligent mind if you really want to master that sin that's creeping in your mind, those thoughts that come in. You don't have authority to subdue it and just say, I don't want to think any bad thoughts. I'm above it. Everybody has these thoughts. Everybody has bad emotions. Everybody has negative feelings. It's the wisdom that we are able to counteract against those feelings. So we need to know which type of control to put in which type of situation. And this is where I'm seeing, I would say, in 2020 more than in a long time, is that where we are failing. We're looking at people who have different political views and we're trying to subdue them. If we control them with chains and arguments and this and that rather than the mashal, let's use some facts, let's use some wisdom and express your point of view while always understanding you're always going to have two sides of the fence, then you're not going to be so enraged. You're not going to be so angry. You're not going to be blaming the other political party for whatever's going on in the world. You're going to take a step back and realize this has happened before countless times. It's going to happen in the future countless times. Let me just relax. Use the mashal type of control so you can control your own emotions. Do you really believe that whoever is the political leader starting next year, that the whole world is going to collapse or crumble? I don't know how many people said that if Trump was elected, I'm moving, I'm going to another country, whatever the case may be. I would quote the last president. I think he had a very good understanding of the idea. Whether you agree with President Obama or not, he said something very wise. And what he said was, we have to understand whoever is elected, it's coming in the form of a pendulum. I, almost accepting what he is, I'm pretty much the most left president to ever exist. If you don't think that that pendulum's going to swing right, you need to grab this understanding. This is coming from somebody that I would tell you has a good understanding that what is happening is just part of a bigger scheme. It's part of a bigger process. And so whether you disagree or agree with who he was and his political views, when it swings back to maybe one of the more stronger right, however you understand President Trump to be, you can now also process that if the pendulum goes one way, there's probably a pretty good chance it's going to go back to the other direction as well. And so he's seeing the bigger picture, and that's what I would hope to encourage each one of you as. So when I say something like, have a good new year, or 2020, and it's mentioned, it should never be with this catastrophe feeling that 2020 is the worst experience. That we're living to get to tomorrow. If we can make it to 2021, if we can get a Rosh Hashanah idea that if we get to the next place, we're going to be better, we're never going to get to that place. What we have to learn to do is enjoy today with a renewed idea of what it is, a new moon, a new year, a fresh understanding, while still looking back and learning how to control things in its proper context. I would never want to control my children using the subdued process. It doesn't work. That's for plants. That's for trees. That's for rocks. You decorate the rocks exactly how you want, and the rocks don't get to tell you. But when it comes to your children, you have to use the intelligence of Marshall. You want to use the wisdom even more so than the mastery that he's talking about. You tell your children to clean their room, that's wonderful. Does that mean that they're going to grow up to be good people? No, you want to give them the wisdom of why you need to keep a clean room. And your authority is limited. Your children know it. I have shared with my children time and time again, and now they're at the point of their own wisdom where they actually try to use it against me in a court of law when I'm speaking to them. And they'll say, and what I taught them was, if I wake you up to go to school and you just fall on the side of your bed, what can I do? I can't pick you up, walk you to school. You just loaf, and that's it. I can't make you get dressed. Each and every day, you make a choice to get up, put on your clothes, go eat some breakfast. That's you taking control of your life, and that's what we're trying to give them more of each and every day. So rather than feeling controlled by 2020, rather than feeling like the political world is controlling us or whatever is in the back of our mind, in the front of our mind that holds us back from trying to be potentially our best self, you have to learn to let that all go, because tomorrow's going to have its own problems the same way yesterday did. Learn your forms of control, learn the big picture, the pendulum swings, and take peace in knowing that however things turn out, your peace of mind is probably the most important part of it all. So as we go into the new year, have a renewed, fresh mindset, look back, enjoy what you did yesterday, no matter what it was, because hopefully it makes you a better person tomorrow. All right? Have a good New Year. Happy New Year. Hag sem